Welcome to another OCD Recovery Instagram Live. Well, actually, it's not live today because I've recorded this as a video for once. I often do them as a live, but I thought I would do a video because I want to really focus on a particular topic today, and I'll be covering all the questions and answers on the next Instagram Live. But I thought I would come on here today and cover the topic of the mechanism of OCD and what that involves exactly. I'm in London today. As you can see behind me is the Winter Wonderland in Hyde Park. So yeah, put a bit of a sort of different background today. So makes a bit of a change instead of my usual white background. And as I'm up visiting in London, I thought, why not make not Instagram Live, a video with a bit more of an interesting background. So I'm going to be talking about the mechanism of OCD. So let's have a look at this, specifically what I'm talking about in relation to this. So I did quite a lot of posts today talking all about how to look at our brain a bit like a computer. So if you think of our brain as a bit like a computer, think of it, first of all, let's break it down and look at when we're in it and we're sort of consciously in it, we think of ourselves as our brain is completely us, and whatever we do in that moment is us, our free will, our choice, and so therefore we bear all the responsibility and everything that comes with all of that, and we have full control of every thought and everything that we think, and so that is absolutely specific to us, and that's all in our internal control, which isn't the case at all. So if we look at our brain as a sort of blob of jelly, and it's got sort of like loads of energy, electrical impulses zooming around millions of times, and these are thoughts and thinking and process in the body and all sorts. So when you have a thought, if you think of it just like a computer process, then you can become more of an observer of what's going on, instead of like being completely internally inside it, like completely, I need it, what is going on there, like why is that happening, this mustn't, and trying to fight away and force away a particular thought or something you're thinking. And that's not a good answer, that's not a good solution. So by becoming an observer more in in the brain, so that we're viewing it as more like a computer process that's going on, then we can sort of see this for what it is. So there's a sort of electrical impulse, there's a thought going, there's a scary sensation going, there's a depressive sensation, going, and then we can see it more like that, which is really, really important in this recovery journey. So then we've got to look at what OCD is. It's basically like a sort of I'm using language to describe it, to make us have a good sort of view of how it's operating. So if we think of OCD as just like a sort of raised energy sensation, just a slightly lifted energy sensation that's just a little bit heightened, okay? Then what we do is we add all the next bits. Because that's there, that's terrible, that's awful. If that's there, it's unbearable. And then all that comes into the process, where in fact that isn't the case. What actually is happening is we're adding all the rest to it. Of course, I know how scary that sensation is, how latched it can become to a particular scenario, but all that's actually happening there is you are scared of a particular thing, you're frightened of something, and then that's just getting more and more scary in your head, and then we're going round in that circle. And then when we're going into the content, when we're really, really latched, we can often find ourselves getting more and more scared in that process, when we're like hammering away of, oh my God, this is so terrible, this thing that's happening, and we get more and more scared. So we've got to look at our approach and how it all works. So when we have this anxiety sensation that's there, this sort of heightened energy in the mind that's there, okay? What's happening is we're feeling that, and we are then panicking and diving into, that means this, or that means that about the past or the future, and I need an answer, I need to get this all clear and clarified right now, where that isn't actually what needs doing. It's about observing that we've got this sort of heightened sensation, and it's there. Okay, that's happening. That process is there. That is going on in the brain at the moment. That's there. That's okay. Okay, we don't need to work out what our religion is, how strict our religion is, or what happened in the past, or what is our relationship working, or is our relationship not working. We don't need to work out any of that. I'm sorry if it's too bright behind me. I think it's just because of the way the video screen, when it's turned around, it's light outside and darker inside, it's doing that. So that's then what's happening with that process. Okay, that's then what's happening there. So you don't need to go into all of that, right? You need to sort of observe that and think, okay, this is the sensation that I'm feeling. That is what I'm experiencing now. Okay, I know it feels like something has really badly happened in the past, or something's really scary, but that's what it does. It sort of like almost puts a new data entry into the brain of like, this thing had happened. It's not a new data entry, but that's what it feels like. So it feels like your past has been rewritten, or your relationship has been rewritten. You completely don't love them, or you've done something in the past that you feel is horrendous or whatever. And it's trying to sort of latch and grip all around that. Okay. Now, the way out of that is getting more comfortable with that sensation, not trying to work that out, trying to feel that feeling, having an understanding of OCD and what's going on, so you become more trusting of the process. That certainly isn't just thoughts are thoughts, it's nothing. That's too bland and too basic, and usually in mild cases can work in a lot of cases, but in chronic OCD doesn't tend to cut it. So what is the deeper acceptance we talk about? Well, when it's latched to something like, say, something in the present. Say, for example, I've been diagnosed with a disease. Perhaps I've been diagnosed with a lung disease. I can't tell myself a thought is a thought because it's happened. It's there. Right now, I am experiencing that disease. So I need to come to terms with that disease. Now, that is something that's happening in reality. Now, just getting comfortable with the thought and sensation doesn't tend to work from our position of how we're seeing the world, our sort of consciousness and perspective of the world, because that seems so exaggerated and scary. So we need to bring that down, which is where the philosophy and the rational thinking all comes in to form unconditional self-life. Another acceptance that we talk hugely about on these channels, about Albert Ellis's work, that really gets under it and helps break that down. Now, you don't need to get that nailed down fully to feel relief. It helps drastically take the edge off. That's the point of it. It helps to drastically take the edge off, but it does not need to be completely bolted down. Sure, over time, when I really felt I've embodied it, it released hugely. The chronic guilt and chronic anxiety released hugely, but that's not the only path. That is part of it. It's learning about how OCD operates, getting comfortable with uncertainty, changing your relationship with anxiety. Now, if I got, say, triggered, happens rarely, but if I got triggered and it was latched to something for that bit and I thought, I'm a bit bumpy on my acceptance here, I don't need to work out. I can see the fear of fear and then it just fades instantly, right? Because I'm confident and I understand it and I feel very separate to the thoughts, the sensations, and I can see that it's in tune with my reality. Let me explain. When I'm scared of a thought, I can see that as a process in the brain. When I'm scared of something happening in reality, I can see that reality is based on my perspective. So reality and thoughts is also separate because I can see that's all filtered through the lens of perspective. So whatever happens, I can see it's my perspective. So I know, hey, yeah, let's just see later on, I'll be able to get through that and then I'll feel distant to it and it separates, okay? So it never feels, I can see that everything I think and feel is filtered through that lens of perspective. So that's key. Like I know that if I got a disease or I was faced with a very difficult life circumstance, my perspective shapes that. So I can get under that by changing my perspective. So I'm confident. Before, when I didn't understand that, I thought anything that was real meant I should be chronically anxious or chronically guilty forever, and I should never feel relief and I should never feel peace ever, ever, ever again. And that's what kept me so chronically stuck, right? And so that used to consume all my life. And I can relate this to everything. When I was going to a concert, I went to don't need to name the specific concert because there was many. And I could always remember, that concert's when I was experiencing chronic guilt. Or when I was up in central London, like I am today, I was thinking to myself, oh, that moment was experiencing chronic guilt when I was walking around Hyde Park, or when I was out for dinner in the West End or something. It was always there, and I could, every life experience I could match that moment to in the past. Okay, so that's what happens with OCD, and how our perspective of it all shifts. And it's all through this consciousness and perspective that we're seeing. I view OCD like almost being too conscious. Like, we're so conscious into our environment. We're so connected and into our environment. And that's what makes it feel so real and so scary, because we feel so in tune. But it isn't that. It's just the lens we're seeing things through is just got a more perceived level of threat. And we're tuning that back bit by bit by bit to the position I'm in now. No chronic anxiety, no chronic guilt. Anything that happens externally, I can see, hey, I've got a say in this. My perspective is influencing this. And then bit by bit, I can shift that back. And then after a while, it becomes your being. It becomes how you are. Like how I live. People who know me, friends who know me, they're like, you know, Rob, he lives very much sort of doing what he wants to do in life, putting those things in priority to him. He's very content spending time on his own. He lives life very much in the moment, and he really enjoys what he's doing in that way. And he's kind of doesn't really care what society thinks or what other people think. He does what is gonna provide the best benefit for his own happiness, for those around him, those kind of things. And that's key. And that's not me saying, oh, I've got it all worked out, because we haven't. I was watching a great video by Dalia, who wrote a great book I like, Principles, who was saying you know, that he hasn't got it all worked out, and he's a hugely successful person. And he's like, you never have it all worked out. No one's got it worked out. Whoever your heroes are, maybe it's actors, musicians, entrepreneurs, athletes, they haven't got it worked out. They wake up thinking, what am I going to achieve this year or this week, or sort this out, and then I'll get to a place, because it's a constant chasing. That's how life is. Only when I've got to this, only when I've got to that, when I've done this, when I've done that, then everything will be in place. And we all think that, because life is a constant journey of the grass is greener and going. So being aware that we do that is a great part of calming down that process and being more at peace. Because then the more we see that and the more we feel that, then we give up this massive chasing in the internal sense. That doesn't mean you're not driven. I'm very driven, and I really excited. Every day I wake up thinking, I can't wait to see what happens in life, and what happens with the work we do with OCD, and what happens with my family's life, or anything that's coming up, plans and so on. So that is all there. That is all part of every day I go to bed. I think I'm looking forward to getting up in the morning. Now, I don't always feel like that, but most of the time I do, right? When I had OCD, I was like, I just want to sleep. Waking up's hell. So I was feeling like, yeah, waking up's hell. I want to just escape this. So it didn't have that. That sort of kind of joyous snap into the day where you really want to be alive. That wasn't there. I wanted to be alive, but I just didn't want to feel shit, and all I knew was feeling shit all the time. And so that changes, and it's very hard to see that when you're caught in it and you're stuck in it. You can't even imagine that. You can't even see a way out of that. You're so used to trying to escape it. You're so used to going on forums all day to try and get better. You view the rest of the world and everyone around as people that are better, but you're not better, and they're not better. They're normal, and you're sort of plagued with this thing, and like you're different, and they've got their life and you've got yours, and no one knows about it, and it's all suffering and all stuck. And if only that thing hadn't happened in the past, then you'd be fine, even though that's not the case, because OCD morphs, and so on and so on. That endless cycle of feeling this kind of negativity, and like the life had been sucked out of you. That's what it feels like 24/7 when you're in that situation. So when I look back at every moment like that, I used to think that, look, say for example, I had to go back right now to the experience of chronic OCD. I'll demonstrate what that felt like. I'll show you what that felt like. It felt like this. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about OCD now. What was I saying? Yeah, okay, one sec. Yeah, so I was saying that OCD is this disorder that basically where it's an anxiety condition, and it would be like that. if I was having to talk about something like a topic like OCD, it would be like that at first. Yeah, I'd be able to speak, but I would be checked out. I'd be sort of like behind a misted layer of glass, like just not there, just kind of, you'd see I was kind of distant. I always call it like an OCD stare, where they're sort of just not there. They may be able to speak fine, but they're like often losing concentration. They're not really in it. You can see they're not alive. It's like they're completely fixated on a sort of life and death thought that's just got all their energy on that for now. Okay. Now, when I was doing my jobs in the past and I was working and I owned a gym in the past, I would be there, and not everyone would be aware, of course, that I had OCD. But if you saw a difference between me then and now, you'd see one is like way more full of life. Okay. Now, that's not to say I'm way full of life all the time, because life has got a sort of monotonous feel to it a lot of the time when we're working and doing things. So all humans, no one is walking around smiling ear to ear. Usually the people who are walking around smiling ear to ear is putting it on with a fake smile ear to ear, because humans ain't like that. Humans really are going to some days feel, I'm not feeling that great. Oh, I don't really like that. I'm not too happy with this thing. I've got to do that thing. That's how humans are, you know. People are sort of, you see a lot of sort of people in my industry and with life coaching and all kinds of coaching that are sort of like, wake up your day, do this massive run and eat this super breakfast and feel on top of the world. Well, that ain't reality in life, and that ain't their reality in life most of the time either, because they're not showing when they're answering 400 emails and they're having to get a plane with loads of jet lag and go to about 5 different conferences in a week. So they're not showing that, and they're not just smiling ear to ear all the time. That ain't reality. Life isn't like that most of the time. So being aware of that's key as well. You know, being aware of those things is very key. So I wanted to sort of paint a picture of the mechanism and the thinking. And I'm going to be doing a lot more videos covering that, all the mechanism and the thinking, how we operate with anxiety, how we operate with OCD, how we view OCD, because there's a lot of details into that. And there's so much to cover on that. And we're going to be running some different webinars covering that, the mechanism of OCD, how to distance from OCD, all these different things, because they're all important parts of the whole journey. When I'm often describing things online, it's difficult to explain everything just in text form. You can do it, but it's easier to, when we speak, we can relay information and tone and sort of give a better understanding of how things are, because with acceptance, it's sort of multi-layered. There's lots of different things going on. Having an understanding of how OCD operates and latches, and why fear of fear plays such a big part, why people are so scared of being stuck scared forever, and so on, and how that all interacts with one another. So those things are really important. So I thought, well, we've got to do a lot more videos on that, because that is so key, because it's specifically gets under that. It helps us to see how it sort of intertwines and latches, because things happen subtly. You'll get like fear of fear that makes a false memory feel 10 times more real, whereas actually it's just you're mainly scared of the false memory being stuck. Or it's something like, if that real event hadn't happened, and because it was real, that means there's no hope for you with OCD, where actually the real event is the way you're observing that and your perspective that's creating that sensation. So many different areas that, which I'll be going into in lots of detail in the next coming webinars and these YouTube videos. Guys, great to see you as always, and good to be back on here in 2022. And I will be doing a lot more of these videos, both on Instagram Lives and on here, so I can cover very specific topics where I'm trying to concentrate on the topic, and then doing the questions and answers and so on in Instagram too. Guys, I will see you on the next video. Take it easy, guys. Bye.